we are live. Welcome back. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Starting off hot with a brand new book, 61 by Chris Paul. Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Book Club Bros featuring. My name's Chase. I'm here with Landon and Miguel. And if you guys missed it, we are now reading 61 Life Lessons from Papa on and off the court by Chris Paul. And we just got finished with the first part of it, which was from the beginning all the way through chapter 4 and up to 5.
I know you're doing it my way now. Now I know you were just messing the whole time. We've come so far.
But yeah, so I mean, we've kind of been talking about it throughout the week, and so guys, what did you think about this first part compared to the others? I personally, we kind of mentioned it a little bit, how saying it was like an easy read. Now, is it an easy read because the book is easy, or is it because now we're hitting kind of our strides and we're like reading faster? Because I low key kind of noticed that. I kind of noticed that the book itself, like us reading, like I've been reading faster.
No, I mean, no doubt. I mean, I do feel like, the font's a little bit bigger and stuff like that. You got spacing and stuff like that on the pages, but like really, in reality, I felt like it was just a super easy read to get through. It's also something that I noticed immediately was it's a different type of read.
Yeah.
Like
true.
we already, and I'm glad you kind of hit the switch on that last, like with our last book when we were going like, self-help, motivational, just different stuff like that, basically different avenues of it. And then to go to the murder mystery, like I said, I was super like reading that the wrong way for the first few chapters until I realized that reading this, like luckily I had caught on to a little bit more. Otherwise I would have just been like, we talked about it a little bit in the car. Like it's fun to not read for a deadline. It's more fun to like read to actually like figure out what's going on. Because if I'm being truthful, like a lot of school, whenever they assign you all this reading, it's like read it as fast as you can, gain whatever you need to know. Because I would always recall enough of what they were going to ask about, but it was never like super purposeful, just reading what was on every line.
I also think that has to do with just like actually wanting to read what you're reading compared to like being assigned that you have to read that certain thing.
There were some good books though. What was the best book? I mean, they didn't assign that many great ones. I thought, in hindsight, I feel like Fahrenheit 451 was pretty decent. Oh yeah, you never had to read that.
No, I never had to read that. What was the one that I had to read?
What was the one with Lenny and George?
Yes.
What was that one? Of Mice and Men.
Mice and Men.
Yeah, of Mice and Men. There were some okay ones. There were some okay ones. But you're right. The books we're reading now seem to be a little bit better. It's just, but yeah, like we were just talking about autobiography. So it's more about just exactly what I said. The purpose of this book was I wanted to learn a little bit about someone who I know, who is supposedly doing all this stuff. Just learn a little bit more about their life and see what kind of. Also, like figure out someone else's mindset, because the fact that we all think differently, I think we can pull. There's certain things we can pull from other things, and then there's certain things that not necessarily you disagree with, but you're just like, I didn't realize that you could have that type of perspective on something like that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think overall, yeah, it just like provides more insight on Chris Paul and just kind of his come up. Starting off with chapter 1, this was kind of interesting how they kind of brought it out. So chapter 1 in summary was kind of like he was in high school and his father already died, or his grandfather already died.
Papa Chip.
Yeah. And then it kind of jumps back into chapter 2 where it all started, right? Is what I was getting to.
Yeah, chapter 1 was pretty quick. Like you said, kind of a summary. The first thing I did, the only thing I took from that was like, I had to just make a note of this. I said it's like cool and interesting to see how like Chris, who's like an NBA player, how CP like writes, and it already feels like he's just a different type of writer. Like it felt like a different type of reading, because it's like immediately it's not. I mean, I'm sure he had a publication team, but it's so clearly the way he talks.
Really?
Like you can tell like the verbiage of it and stuff like that. They really try and get across. They weren't like, hey, this might sound more grammatically correct if you said it this way, or more formal. I like the way that you're kind of getting to see a little bit of how he talks come out in the book, compared to like the super well done up, buttoned up books that we've read kind of in the past.
Yeah.
I feel like.
Jumping to chapter 2, this is kind of where it starts getting nitty gritty. Papa. What'd you guys think about Papa?
classic guy.
Good man,
So,
good dude,
I just
Hard worker.
yeah,
good
literally,
dude.
that's it. Just a
I
great person.
I really enjoyed the part where, so in short, Chris Paul's papa, his granddad, um, bought or was renting a gas station from this one guy, and this one guy wasn't willing to sell his gas station to him because he was black. So instead of arguing with them and doing that, he canceled his lease and he bought the next gas station in town. And I think that was just like a really good story, just to be like, hey, no matter what, even if it things are against you, like just work, you can find a way around it. And um and they really hammered in his hands,
Oh yeah,
just incredible.
yeah.
Just
The
like
details, right?
Yeah.
You never even would imagine, because those details are coming from like an 8-year-old.
right,
Because even if he's writing the book now, right, it's all back on memory.
The-
So
permanently stained hands from working on cars and oil.
and not using gloves, refusing to use gloves
But yeah,
all that time.
yeah. So definitely Papa was a good dude, and I actually had a good quote on page 9 or line. He said, let's see where
I think
is
we
it?
got the same thing. but
He
what's
dig
the
he
video?
dig those generous hands deep into his pockets, pull out a wad of cash, gladly peel the person's problem away bill by bill. Papa didn't ask to be paid back or ask to listen to a lecture before helping. He wanted nothing in return. He thought it was a blessing to be a blessing. And I was like, that's a good, just like solid thing to live by.
Yeah.
You know, it's a blessing to be a blessing.
Yeah, and obviously he talked a little bit about his love for money, but not the love of money. Like he loved to get money because it was a means. It was basically like the result of doing it. But another thing that I loved that kind of showed Papa's perspective was just beneath that, basically the next paragraph down, it goes, "How you feeling today?" And one thing that would always come out of Papa's mouth was, "I'm blessed and highly favored." That's how he went about his life. He truly believed that and felt that every day. And I just wrote down like that's the mindset that like I want to like get to, and just like kind of feel like you're constantly just walking around with, like no matter what it is, someone's got it worse, like just those kind of, not those cliches, but those truths as to whatever they are. I just, obviously his frame of mind to be giving out money to whoever needs it, not expecting it back, that tells you almost, someone doing that almost tells you everything you need to know about a person.
Yeah.
Because in this day and age, like money is basically the means to everything. So if you're just giving away money, obviously, if you have a lot of it, it'd be one thing. But it's not like he went on to say he was, a millionaire. He was just a hard worker, and he just liked to use his money
Yeah.
the way that he.
Yeah.
kinda
I'm
framed
sure.
it.
I'm sure it seemed like he did fairly well, but
Oh,
nothing.
No, I
Nothing
think you're right about
ridiculous
that.
where it was like, yeah, buying mansions and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah, just an overall good dude. Good dude. And it got me thinking. I think. Let me see here. I kind of like the little bit of side hustle between Chris and his brother CJ. How they would do certain things with either the customers, and they would lead people. So obviously, as they were growing up, Chris and CJ, his brother, would work at the gas station, and that's kind of where chapter 2, 3, and 4 kind of just resolve. I like though like the hustle kind of fight mentality that they had, where they would persuade customers to, instead of going to the self service, they would go to the full service, so they would get a tip and stuff, so they could buy food and stuff and make it a competition. Um,
They found all kinds of ways to like entertain themselves there. And
Mhm.
honestly, I thought something I wrote down on the bottom of page 15. They said, Chris was like, when I say my granddad owned a service station and doubled as an auto repair shop, people think of him as an owner, right? But you'd think that he would be sitting back in the recliner, chilling and watching everyone do the work, but that wasn't the case. Papa worked just as hard, if not harder than everyone else. The way he worked made us want to work. And I was like, he clearly went above and beyond to instill in them at a young age, like just work ethic.
Yeah.
And I can't, because even Chris does an amazing job of like highlighting how important it is at a young age to instill that. Like even with all this money he talks about, he's like, if you don't get it at a young age, like I think you can realize the kind of the consequences of not having any type of discipline, let alone very good discipline.
Yeah. No, I agree. And then I also think that it was very interesting, just like correlating our experience, Landon and I's experience, because we worked at a gas station,
Oh, dude, I was thinking about that.
and
I think I wrote something about that somewhere.
and it was just like it was very interesting, like just like I could relate to that, and I never would have thought that I would be relating to working at a gas station with Chris Paul.
Yeah,
And
that's
you know, be like,
That's
oh
true.
yeah, like
that's what's cool about yeah, because it's the kind of stuff like especially when you get to whenever you reach that level of stardom or celebrity, like it's either it was already talked about at the very beginning of their career or it's played out by now. Like at this point, you can go look it up or read his book. Otherwise, like you're just watching all these people and you don't know what their stories
oh yeah,
are.
like
You just don't know.
I
We
knew
all have
of
lives.
him.
Yeah.
I knew of Chris Paul
Right.
because I mean, how do you not if you just know relatively sports in general?
Right.
But I didn't know that, and so like, yeah, it almost like bridged the gap. It's like, oh man, like I worked at a gas station, he worked at a gas station, so like, almost yeah, like a little bit of relatability.
Yeah, and not to get like too psychology about it, but I do feel like the more you get to know someone, the harder it is to hate them.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like the kind of the subtle consciousness of like the subtle thought of like, you know, if I really knew all the good this person did, I wouldn't be able to say like you suck.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think it's I think that's just because like you get more context on like how
Sure.
they're acting,
Mhm.
why they're behaving that way. It's like, oh man, that dude's a dick, but it's like, oh man, he had like a horrible upbringing.
And that's the game.
I'm gonna give him.
And that's the game in the media nowadays, not even just for athletes, you know. It can be for for like pop stars, it can be for president, it can be for anyone. Like you say one thing. I was just talking to I think both of you about that Bills punter who had his name like dragged through the mud over this allegation. Over this rape allegation. The details were awful, and apparently it did happen, but he wasn't part of it. He wasn't there. Like he was totally absolved of all of it, yet he can't get a tryout. All these GMs are like, no, I have a daughter. Like I'm not gonna bring you in. And it's like he's like and there's like concrete proof now, but it's just the narrative around it. Like you would have to explain to everyone.
Yeah.
It's the same thing like where I talked to you guys a little bit when that Manti Te'o documentary came out. Like you'd have to explain to everyone, and the reality is people maybe don't care that much. It's just like okay, like that already happened. It's like dang, well,
Yeah, and
just
then that
reality
can
of
like ruin your life.
it
Yeah.
literally it ruined
Yeah.
his life.
Tough, man.
But I had a cool thing on chapter 3. I think feel free to chime in, guys, if you have anything as well. I want to know actually from you guys because you obviously watch more basketball than me,
Mhm.
but it came out on chapter 3, page 33. He said, when I got traded to the Houston Rockets to Oklahoma City Thunder, many people wrote me off. The first song I heard the next morning heading to my workout was a gospel song by Mary Mary called Can't Give Up Now. And then he says,
I had that next part highlighted. Yeah, he goes on to say, he says, the media gave us a 0.2% chance to make the playoffs that year. We ended up as the 5 seed, and I ironically lost to my old team, the Rockets, in 7 games. But I never stopped believing in my team. And I was going to actually, I'm glad you brought that up. Did you have a second question for that?
Well,
or so what was your question for
I
that?
was going to say, does he, because apparently he writes Can't Give Up Now on his shoes.
Oh,
Does he
okay.
still do that?
I'm not sure, honestly.
I don't watch
like
it,
that. His kicks like that.
but he says he does. He probably does. But I was going to ask you, like, I vividly remember, like, this whole storyline and everything. Like, whenever he got traded there, and it was like, I obviously I didn't like Chris Paul at this point in time, but I was just like, he's not gonna do anything for the Thunder. Like that's an objectively young and not that good of team. And the Western Conference is stacked. You got the Warriors. You got the.
How many years ago was it?
This was like 3-4 years ago.
Yeah.
I don't know if he gave the exact date on it, but it would have been like 3 years ago, and it was like it was the pandemic season. It was the pandemic
The
season.
bubble.
So yeah, it was the bubble season, and yeah, I remember like watching him in the playoffs, just absolutely balling out of control, and I was like in the back of my head, I'm sitting there like it's the Thunder aren't that good. They're not even gonna win, one round. But like he kept on willing them to victories, and now he's on the Warriors, and I watched the way he tries to do that. It hasn't been super successful. We're trying to get our footing still, but you see his will out there, like. He's really like he's got the will. If something goes wrong, he immediately is just like right back on it. You can almost see it in his eyes compared to because you can see in other people's eyes you make a mistake and it's like whenever he makes a mistake he's like gosh dang it, right back at it.
Right.
Like,
Just
right
rushes
back
it.
at it. I thought that was pretty cool. But do you remember that like
Yeah,
that whole
man.
time frame?
Yeah, and I think the important part was him going into the locker with the younger team and being like the mentor,
Mm.
because when him and Shea like he was teaching him so much, and now Shea after 3 years is like he's bro, he's insane. He's like almost MVP level if you want to call it that. But
He's
um,
so good.
yeah, it's just having him in the locker room, being able to coach him and teach him certain things about the game. Um, yeah, it's nice to see, honestly. But
Yeah.
that was definitely a pivotal moment in his career because, like he said, they came back and they got the fifth seed in the conference, and like for him to go and do that that's incredible.
Right. And it was never sad to me before. It's sad now, and hopefully this changes. But he's never had a ring,
Yeah,
so like that's
yeah,
always like loomed large. And as far as sports goes, it's like if it's the pinnacle, then
Of
like
course, when you're
you're a
that
loser unless you're a winner.
right,
yeah,
So
especially when you're that great of
whenever
a
you're that great of a
yeah,
player, you
yeah.
know, top 5 point guard all time,
yep,
undeniably. So that like being able to still like have wins. You
mm-hmm.
know, like you're not going to win the championship with the Thunder. Literally, you had a 0.2% chance to make the playoffs, so no one expected you to. But you can somehow win around and take a team that the Rockets that were supposed to maybe go to the finals, take them to 7 games, almost beat them. Like
Yeah,
I don't know if he believes in moral victories, but that's more just like that's hard work shining through.
Right. I mean, at the end of the day, it's still a team sport, so you can't put
Exactly.
all the blame on
Oh,
yourself.
mm-hmm.
exactly. That's true.
Um, I did have a cool thing about hearing a little bit on page 34 of his perspective on parenting.
Yes,
That was interesting.
yeah,
He said, one thing that being a parent made me realize is that my past is important in shaping their future. If I want them to value the process, then they must know our family's history and how it taught me work ethic. This is why I feel so important we continue to spend time in North Carolina to see where they came from. And I thought it was very interesting to see of just like I never thought of that perspective of like, especially like you, Landon, since you aren't from here.
mm-hmm.
So like when you do have kids, is that something you do? Are you gonna bring them back to your hometown and be like, this is where?
Oh yeah, dude. Like I'm very nostalgic and sentimental like that. But also I like Florida, so it'll just be in spurts. But yeah, no, I like he's like so on top of it. Like that's what it's cool. Like we're transitioning to a different type of person. Like everyone else we've kind of read a book about has either been either an author because they wrote the book, like that's kind of what they do, or it's been like someone who's like really dedicated to like improvement and getting other like Gary V's people like bringing them along on this journey, trying to find ways to get better. He's like a basketball player doesn't really fall along those lines at all, but he like carries his life with a lot of the same attention to detail that these other successful people are doing, which is why it's like I always tell my wife whenever she's like, these people, they seem like they have it all together, and I'm like, they took the chinks on their armor to get there. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's what I believe. Like they went, like they have the wisdom because they've gone through something, or they found, but like whatever it is, they earned that. And I see a lot of it kind of the same way with Chris, just the way that he is so I've said it till already, but he's just so caring with his kids, and you can tell he was cared for.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think is cool. Is like if you care for someone, you can tell because of how they care for others. So if you get neglected as a child, you can tell sometimes because of how they treat others. So like that's the sad part about the whole parenting thing and why it is such a key thing to point out.
Yeah.
Man.
I also had. So I thought it was real. This was like almost the highlight of the first part for me. Was it seems that like yeah like history and his family where he came from and for Chris Paul is like the utmost important thing, the root of Chris Paul.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it really took it home when he talked about Peter Oliver.
Mm-hmm.
Oh
You
yeah,
remember
right.
Peter Oliver was?
That was a crazy story.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna read that part because I think everyone should just hear like
Yeah, 38.
where it just came from. I guess Chris Paul's just work ethic. So it says the hard work didn't begin with Papa. The DNA in our family's Winston-Salem roots goes as far back as the chattel slavery. Peter Oliver, a skilled and ambitious potter and farmer, walked into Pennsylvania courthouse on June of 1800 and demanded his freedom. The beauty of the story is that it wasn't a battle between him and his disgruntled slave owner. All of the Moravians worked together to secure his freedom. Oliver had figured out a way to trick the system by selling his pottery until he earned enough money to pay a white man named Peter Lenhart to purchase him from his then owner. Oliver's owner probably thought that he had made enough money off his labor and then could turn a bigger profit by selling him to Lenhart, and it worked like a charm. What the owner didn't know was it was Lenhart's and Oliver's came up with this plan. As soon as Lenhart would receive Oliver, the two went to Pennsylvania to file Oliver's freedom. This plan wasn't just done by two men, though. It was a group of effort by the Moravians to help Peter pay for his freedom. The collective did it, not just Peter. Once Oliver was free, he relocated back to Winston-Salem, where he got married and had 2 children, continuing to be a potter, enjoying his remaining days until he passed in 1810. Peter Oliver is my great-grandfather 6 times removed. I'm so inspired by him because he didn't come up with excuses. He created a plan and executed it, all based on hard work. Peter Oliver was relentless. And it's just like, I just like wrote underneath that. I was like, that's crazy. I was like, that's just so crazy. Like, you're able to that part of me wanted to be like, I want to see like what my great grandfather did to get where I am, and see how I originated.
Well, I wrote the same thing. I put cool story because I was like, not everyone has ties like that. Like, that's a pretty cool like historical tie to have within your family, within your bloodline. So, because I was reading that story, I kind of got to the same point you did. I was reading it and I was like, who is Peter?
Yeah.
And then it literally goes, he passed in 1810. I was like, okay, the story's over. And then the next line is, Peter Oliver is my grandfather 6 times removed.
Yeah.
I was like, oh.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tracing your lineage and seeing like your family history. It's something when I was reading, I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, man, like why am I the way I am? Because most of the time, this is like traditions passed on. Like, you are a product of what your family was and how they acted, and certain variables always change that. But like for the most part, I do want to see like where my roots are.
Right, like your great grandfather was a warrior or something.
Exactly.
You're like, what?
That would be crazy.
You're like, that's where I get that like competitiveness from.
And then to your point, like you said, he has like a great. Seems like he has a big like care for like his roots and stuff like that.
Yeah,
makes sense.
Yeah.
Like your roots are that. Like that. I'm glad that he cares like about that to teach them like that, because 6 times removed now is what we're talking.
Yeah.
Like it just takes one family member to not like really impress that upon you, and now like nobody knows they're the descendants of Peter Oliver unless you go to ancestry.com.
Yeah, I mean, like without Chris Paul like bringing that up, no one, who's Peter Oliver?
Right. Yeah. I was like, it's such a like you said, it's kind of a random story plugged in there, although it kind of ties with everything because he spent the entire like first 80 pages talking about hard work essentially.
Yeah.
But
yeah, and then I think the only other highlight I had was on 43, and I thought this was just like a nice, cool quote. He said it was speaking of hard work, it was it's one thing to be forced to do hard work, but the vibe is completely different when the hard work makes you happy. And that kind of ended chapter 3. So yeah, those were kind of my snippets that I had, and then I think chapter 4.
Well, I had actually one other thing on chapter 3 that I thought was of note on page 36. He was just talking about the huge, because there's one thing about hard work. There's another thing about making sure that you give appropriate time to everything in your life. And he goes, losing my grandma woke him up, and he's talking about whenever his grandpa had lost his grandma.
Yeah.
He says losing my grandma woke him up and allowed him to realize that he couldn't just work all the time. There was more to life than just working. And so basically, he spent the whole entire time laying out that this guy's foundation was hard work in Papa Chili, and then eventually, he came to realize, sadly too late, unfortunately, in a way, that he could have been spending a little extra time with his family.
Yeah.
And he didn't. It's not like he did anything drastic. He worked until 7 or 7:30. All he did was just work until 6 every day, and that's done. Like, no more the extra hour to hour and a half. And even CP, he talks about how he appreciated that. And a lot of times whenever you make sacrifices, sometimes you don't know who appreciates it and who doesn't, because I doubt little Chris Paul was like, "Thank you so much for coming home at 6 every day."
Oh yeah.
So then
But he did notice.
yeah, but he did notice somehow, and it was just, I thought that was a cool element to it, on how, for the entire thing, talking about hard work up to that point.
Mhm.
Don't neglect the things you're working hard for, I guess you would say.
And then yeah, or just like figure out the reason why you're working so hard.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, I want to work hard so I can provide for my family, but then you work so hard that you're not even around your family. It's like,
Yeah.
what's the point of working that hard?
Find the balance.
You know?
Right?
Yeah.
You gotta find the balance.
And
On
then
to chapter 4, right?
Chapter 4. I'm trying to think if I have any highlights or anything in chapter 4 that I wanted to talk about.
There were a few. They talked about a few sad things, like on like the 50 to like 53 page. He was talking about how like and suddenly like he would talk about, Chris would talk about his perspective, like if he had a bad game, and he was talking about this guy who grew up at the gas station hanging around. His name was Happy, and basically his name turns out to be like a cover because this guy had just been through some stuff.
Yeah.
Like he had PTSD. He was a war vet. Apparently, he was always just talking crazy, and everyone just let it go, and he didn't understand why until he was old enough to understand why. And then it was just like, I thought it was just sad to like think back to that, and just like, he talks about how black soldiers like didn't receive any aid or support or counseling or love from the government once they had fought to protect. And I was thinking, like, I'm glad we've gotten better, but it still isn't perfect now.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And it's sad to think that this is way, how obviously, we're always making progress in certain areas, but I guess that'd be a time you would like to maybe see more.
Yeah, and like I think Chris's Papa did have that soft spot for him because he
Yeah.
kind of realized like
Exactly.
Happy, his roots.
Mm-hmm.
They touched on a little bit of George Floyd's murder.
Yeah.
They brought that back up, and it was crazy to see how he kind of handled that. Like,
Yeah, his perspective.
Yeah, he talks like the day it happened, they were in the bathroom. He decided to show the entire video to his kids. He even says, like, I know it sounds heavy, but he felt like it was necessary. And it's like, I mean, I feel like now more than ever, especially with social media, you have to walk that line of what you show and don't show.
Mm-hmm.
Like when we were kids, it was just like, you're gonna find news on the news, and if you're not watching the news, you're good. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, it is
you're just living life.
pretty interesting. Like as a parent, like you do kind of have that ability to pick and choose what your kids see and don't see.
Like shelter them.
Yeah, and what they
Try to.
protect.
It was interesting though that he said he showed the entire video. I thought that was
Yeah.
like, it's not something previously that I ever had to think about, but I mean, my fiance is a black woman, so the fact that my child is going to be half black, it's like she would always tell me like, look, like you're obviously going to have to teach her some things. And at first I never thought about it, but even like reading that part, it's like it's tough because you have to expose your child to certain things like that, but at the same time they have to understand like that's reality, and like that's what happens in the world. Like it's not all
Right, there
the
is some
kindest
tragedy.
people. Yeah, of
Yeah.
course. Like there's things that go on that most of the time is just it's out of your control, and there's all these different factors that come into it, which is, I mean, it can get overwhelming. But I think it's good that he was showing his kids like, all right, this even though I'm a multi-millionaire NBA player, like he even said it,
He
like
takes it
once
a
I
bridge further
leave,
on the next page.
yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, once my jersey's off and I'm back in the world, like I'm just another black man walking around in the world.
Yeah.
And I don't. It's a tough reality, obviously, but it's like the way I just love how he's able to parent that way and be able to be like, okay, like I'm not gonna sugarcoat this for you guys. Like you have to see this because this is what goes on.
Yeah. Yeah, he's very, very like family oriented.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the accountability is crazy for him. Like he
Mhm.
just like, and also like you talked about it. He got pulled over. He kind of details his first experience with that,
Mhm.
and like, dude, I'm reading this thing, and it's just it gives you like it peels back another layer of just like empathy, where it's just like obviously, you get the cops make a lot of people nervous. I get nervous getting pulled over because I
Yeah.
don't know, like I don't get
You
pulled
never
over
know.
for doing something right. They don't
Yeah.
pull you over and say good job driving.
Yeah.
So it's like I understand that to that degree, but so like he even talks about being an NBA player, trying to do everything the right way, and the situation still slightly escalates.
Yeah.
And it's just like, but the sad thing is, I know people with that level of hatred. You know, so it's like, sadly, it's not like crazy. It's just like sad. And that's where we've gotten to now, where it's just like, I don't think the conversation has moved to like, can you believe this? It's more just like, will this stop?
Yeah.
Right. Like, I mean, that's where we're at. It's not like, can you believe this happened? Like, we could say that about almost all this different stuff going on in the world right now, but like, with this specific thing, especially with us being in the United States, it's just more of like a, will we be able to get it to stop? Which is,
I don't know, man. That's tough. Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, people are always gonna make mistakes, and there's always gonna be tragedy. But I think it's just like the response to it, depending on how we respond, and like you just learn from like that, and prevent it as much as possible.
that's all you can do.
Yeah.
He talks a little bit on 57 about because you guys, do either of you have brothers? Do you have a brother?
No.
Yeah. So he talks about like, for me, watching him talk about his relationship with CJ, and said like losing to him at anything, big or small, constantly push him to always try to be better. And it honestly made me think about, you know, some of the edge that you get from just like even from parenting, like, oh, I want to have kids around the same age so they can, you know, push each other to do this and that. Like, it's crazy how much control you have once you start your own family. You know, it's like a weird thing to think about. Like, you're always part of your family, and then you start a family, and it's just like, that's like a,
and then that's
within,
your family.
within this family.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's so weird to think about for me. Anyways. But I mean, the brother relationship there, kind of watching how he talked about that, I thought that was funny.
I had something on 65 which I thought was interesting, where he quoted Buddha, and he said, you should be able to see a person work and play and not tell the difference.
Yeah, I like that.
I thought it was just like another nice quote that came from the book.
On page 58, another reason I kind of wrote this book, I overheard you talk about it for a second. You thought it was funny that he did this. That kind of education should be available for everyone. He's talking about just like getting more education for like the schools and certain school districts and stuff, getting the technology for people, for the schools that just don't have it. So he goes, that kind of education should be available for everyone. So one of my biggest missions is my foundation, the Chris Paul Family Foundation, is leveling the playing field and making sure all schools have access to the same technology and learning tools. And I put down, like, that's partly why I wanted to read this book and learn a little bit more about what he does, just because the other book, like I think I told you guys last week at the end, I was between two. Both of them were autobiographies, and both of them like are notable figures in society, and they both have their own foundations, and they're doing stuff like that. I wondered if I don't know if he'll talk more about it, but just like I know he's doing so much stuff, and a lot of guys are just NBA players. So the same way like Papa Chili was the mechanic, he was the whatever, like he was just basically doing everything around the place. Like, I think it was cool that, you know, he's not just he's putting in all that time to be a top 5 point guard, and he's like the president of the Basketball Association, and he's got a foundation, and he's obviously trying to spend time with you. Like, where do you even fit spending time with your kids in with that? But you would think that he is, if they have, if he talks like he cares about that, then you would think that he is.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's impressive to me. Like, a very, very full life.
Yeah. Well, you know, it comes down to like his ingrained of like hard work from his papa. It's just like he's able to, you know, have the ability to do all that with his work ethic.
It takes a special person to do all that.
Yeah.
You know, to
Wonder what his sleep schedule's like.
That's what
Dude, right?
That would be, that would tell a lot.
Right. It's
Like,
like,
how
oh
much you
yeah, I go to
actually
bed at 10 and I wake up at 12, and then I'm doing all this.
Like, bro.
just
And you're
found a way
playing
to
at the
sleep.
highest level
Oh
in your
my-
sport. Like, I don't know. That's a lot.
It's nuts. Do you guys like how on 61 it took you through the entire way to change brakes? I feel like I go to my car and change them right now. He's like, change the fluid level. If it's too much, then you top it off. Then you got to change out this and screw on that. And I was like, wow. I kind of circled it because I didn't want to highlight the whole thing. I was just like, it was step by step on how he would change out brakes.
Could you imagine, right? Let's say you get a flat tire or something.
No.
On the side of the road,
I already know where you're going.
and freaking Chris Paul pulls over and was like, "Hey man, you need help?
That would
I'm gonna swap out the
insane,
tire
bro.
for you." And he's like,
Bro, hey, I don't even need help changing tires. I'm good. You know what I need him to do? I want to see him pull over on the side of the road. What happened? My brakes went out. I
Yeah.
got you.
Yeah, just
Vroom, vroom.
swap them out.
He says it's like an
Bro.
hour. He said it takes like an hour and a half to do the brakes.
45
Like,
minutes.
my brakes
if you're
just went
good.
out. He said
Yeah.
45 minutes to an hour or something like that. That's
If
no,
you're
but that
good.
is funny though. But it's cool that his father was like, I did.
Just
That is definitely.
self-sufficient.
You know what it is? I think that's a dying breed.
It is.
We are. You know what?
Yeah,
That's something
it
we could
really
talk
is.
about.
Yeah.
We're all turning into specialists, and I don't think there's necessarily anything too wrong with that.
Hmm.
But we are becoming more dependent on each other, just in general, from my point of view, because there is, if you become a specialist at something, there's something to love about that. But there's not whenever you have so many specialists, it lessens the need to be able to do everything pretty good.
Hmm.
If you would follow that train of thought with me, that's the way I would look at it. Is like the more specialists you have, the less like, well, I'm gonna have this guy do it, even though this guy does it better. So I feel like that's more of a dying breed. The more advanced we get with technology and with everything, the more specialists there are, and the less there are people that just do everything.
Yeah.
They can do a little bit of everything, like mechanic, also accountant, also
Right.
like just different.
Do you
stuff like
think
that.
that's for the better or for the worse?
Bro, it's tough to say because it's like the more people that are specializing, it elevates the level of that specific field.
Right, of like quality.
Yeah, exactly. But having somebody who can do everything and have knowledge of everything, it's like you don't really meet that many people like that.
Yeah.
Even now, like this past weekend, I was doing a shoot and he was one of my boys. He's like, he's just telling me, he's like, yeah, people are asking me for videos, but it's like I don't do videos necessarily. Like I can do it, but I don't really do videos like that. And I told him like, bro, it's the same for me. When people ask me for photos, I'm like, I can definitely take a picture and do certain things, try to get the composition right and everything, but
Right.
I don't really do photos.
Right.
Like
Not
that.
you don't call yourself a photographer.
So
Exactly.
there's even
Yeah.
different specialist categories within something that's that kind of specialized. You
Right.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's where I feel like, to answer your question, I wouldn't say I think it's probably better, like he was saying, especially for those things. I don't know that I love the feel of it.
Mm.
Just personally, I don't
Yeah.
know that I absolutely. It's not that big of a deal to me.
Mhm.
I don't know that I love the feel of it, but I think, like he said, it will lead to maybe more high functioning stuff. I think whenever you have anything higher functioning, it also leads to higher potential for stress.
So
Yeah.
You know, like I noticed for myself, like if I got my smartphone starts bugging, I've tried to be like, come on, man.
Right. So you would be, so in your perspective, you'd be content with being an all-around average athlete at any sport. Then, like, you pull up on a pickup game, do pretty well, hit some threes, stuff like that, block some shots, and also play a decent round of golf. Instead of,
If it wasn't gonna be I guess it would depend if it wasn't gonna be my profession, because that's basically
Yeah.
what I am. Like I never worked at one sport good enough,
right,
so I can kind of just
Well-
I can kind of play everything okay.
right,
I can kind of play everything okay, but like I'm not like I'm not like a one. Like if anything,
So
you're the
that's what you
closest
would
one of us
prefer.
here, maybe to a one sport athlete. Did you play other stuff,
Bro.
or was it mainly
only-
basketball?
It was mainly basketball.
was
for
mainly
sure. Like I never like did a regulated game of football, a regulated game of soccer, nothing
Yeah,
like
same.
that. It was
Same.
just only
Okay.
basketball.
So like yeah, I guess that's kind of the. So I guess I kind of relate to that a little bit. Maybe that's why I relate to it more. So I'm just used to it. Like I
Right.
said, I don't think it's much of a big deal, but you can just kind of look at it and see a little bit.
right. No, it's interesting. It's an interesting perspective. Do you guys have anything else for chapter
Dude,
4?
I just want to say, did you think it's crazy how they were getting free gas?
Oh
Free
yeah, that
gas.
was.
Bro,
Can you imagine
man.
that perk, man?
Yeah, bro.
We didn't get that when we were working.
That's not even a
We
perk.
didn't get it, bro.
That's
and my
stealing.
and my dad owned it, bro.
Yeah.
yes.
My dad owned the
hilarious.
gas station.
That was not at all in the.
It's
I think,
teaching you a
yeah.
lesson. Teaching you a lesson.
Dude,
I-
literally.
there were
Ethic's
so many
free.
lessons to learn, man. We have so many stories. His first day, his first night, when he
Yeah,
closed.
First night.
Now we're in Florida, so Florida man.
Absolutely
real.
drunk
Yeah, of
out of
course,
his
of
mind.
course. It's real.
Dude, this guy was so intoxicated.
Oh, I was gonna talk about the stabbing.
Oh yeah, let's do that one. Let's not talk about this one. Let's not talk about.
Well,
the
first night he comes and he's closing, and dudes get wasted, and he just calls them flat out racist.
He just
Oh
keeps
my
yelling at
God.
him.
One of,
trying to
and he's
close
one of
out.
our regulars.
He was. He
Oh
had to come
my
back and
God.
apologize.
And yeah, he came back the next day or something, and apologized with his wife,
That's my first night. man.
and that was his first night. But whatever it was, yeah, no, I asked him how was your close, your first close, and he's like, yo, man, I had this lady come out,
Oh my gosh.
and she just got out of jail, right? She
Fresh out of jail.
fresh out of jail, and I don't know how you got in the conversation, but you were like, "Oh,
It wasn't led by me.
how was your day or something?" She's like, "Oh, I just got out of jail," and then she's like, "Yeah, I just got shanked,"
Oh my
and
god.
lifted up her shirt, bro, and there was duct tape
Duct tape.
Are you
on her stomach.
Duct tape. The gray duct tape. The standard one.
Dude,
Literally.
right?
And she was like literally freaking out, trying to borrow the phone to call her mom and stuff like that. And so I was trying to help this dude.
Oh
She
my
just comes, she's like, "Can I get the bathroom key? I gotta go." She's like, "Can I get the
Oh
bathroom
my
key? I gotta go
God.
check on this thing." I was like, "Take the bathroom key, because you probably do gotta go check on that thing."
Oh my god.
I was like, "What in the heck?"
Bro.
She didn't seem dangerous, so like honestly, I was
Oh,
okay. But I
yeah.
was like, "You're obviously somebody dangerous at an interaction with you."
She
So
had,
hopefully they're not coming here
they just got out and got shanked or
that day.
don't-
That day, and it was
my
late at night. So I
God,
don't know what
bro.
time she got out. I just know that it was
Oh
like
my
10 o'clock
God.
at night.
Yeah, because when you get out of jail, like if you have family who's there to come get you, it's like cool. But for the most part, it's just like, all right,
Yeah.
you're out of these
Here's
walls.
the sidewalk.
Like,
North is this
Dude,
way.
Yeah,
yes,
like-
yeah. That we maybe need a better system
bro, that's
than that.
crazy.
Dude, it was
bro.
crazy. I mean,
That's
it's
crazy.
Florida. It's
Yeah.
Florida. That's like maybe in the top 5 stories, but there's like so many other ones.
Oh
that
my
is
god.
nuts.
Yeah, dude.
But yeah, dude, the free gas at the gas station, I was like, what?
Yeah,
They had a
that'd
whole
be lit.
family operation. Like,
Yeah.
like the dad was the accountant, the mom was the accountant, the dad was the what? The dad.
He just
He would
worked.
help out. Yeah.
He
He
would
would,
help
he would
out
just
every
help
now
out
and
from
then.
time to time. Okay. So I was like, yeah. They have like the whole family. I'm like, that's cool. I wrote something down. Oh yeah, that's what I wrote down at the bottom of this. I said life can really be different if your family runs a big operation in a small town.
Mhm.
Because I grew up in a small town. I don't know, like in the country, and I saw operations like this. Like this family's got,
Right.
know,
Oh, the
runs
Johnson's,
runs
the
this
Johnson's grocery.
runs this
yeah.
gas station. Yeah, runs this gas station, whatever. Also have a mansion
Mhm.
because they've been in the same spot, making the same amount of overhead for that many years, doing the same thing, getting more and more regulars, getting more like that kind of operation in a small town is like it's so cool. It's like so cool. It's got like a small town vibe. Like I like the city too, which is why I'm glad I was able to grow up and get some appreciation for this. Because
Mhm.
if I had to choose one, like I prefer being around stuff.
Mhm.
But like driving through small towns up in Missouri whenever I'm going home, it's just like so it's just an entirely different world.
Yeah.
Like they don't care at all about this.
Oh, no shot.
Dude, they don't
Yeah.
care at all about what we're doing.
Yeah.
Not at all about what's going on the internet. Like it's just a community. It's actually really cool. It's actually pretty cool.
That's how it is, man.
Yeah.
It's just different. There's different ways to live.
Yeah.
But that's a different way to live.
I mean, with on the same note, it's like what I don't think I would care either if I'm like growing my own food. I'm just in the middle of nowhere, just being completely self-sufficient.
It
It's like,
completely.
what do I need anybody else for at this point? Just besides like social interaction,
Right,
just to
right.
feed my soul.
Right.
But
To feed my soul.
that'd be about it.
That's
Like,
pretty
literally.
good.
To feed my soul. That's good.
But do you guys have anything else before we wrap up part 1 of the book?
Oh man.
He had changing tires made up for that with how bad he was at like cleaning up the bathrooms. He said, "I love changing tires." And
Bro.
I said, "Same."
Hated
Changing
hated
tires.
cleaning
Says
bathrooms,
same.
bro.
Oh,
Cleaning-
dude, that's what I was gonna say. Like the
cleaning
bathroom
bathrooms?
story is what the bathroom story is
Bro,
what I
man.
highlighted. I don't know if I
Cleaning.
highlighted it just because like he was like the frightening cleaning the bathrooms comes to mind. Imagine scrubbing after a guy who couldn't find the toilet in a small bathroom, smellier than a pile of. We'll leave
Bro,
the
yeah.
rest of that sentence.
That's real.
Yeah.
Dude, it was
That's
so
real.
real, dude.
Multiple times.
Yeah.
It'd be like
Oof.
we give each
Dude,
other nucks and be like,
just-
we're going to war.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, hey man,
'Cause
let's go.
We'd have to clean the bathroom at night, and then we usually would check on the bathroom, like switch on shift.
Dude, it
I
does,
would-
yeah.
I would open 6 to 3. He'd come in at 3, and then be like, "All right, man, I'm gonna go check the bathroom." And then like that's the moment where you go in
It's
there
the moment
and you're
of
like,
truth.
I'm either leaving on time
Yeah.
or I'm leaving another 35 minutes,
It's the
Ugh.
moment of
and
truth.
you just don't know, and you open it up and you're like, "All right, it's decent, all right,
Yeah.
good," or it's just like it's flooded,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and you're like, "What happened in
Yeah.
here, man?"
It's the worst, bro.
And the reality is, most of the time it's pretty good, but like whenever it is bad, it takes actual work to
Yeah.
get that back
is-
to use.
It is bad.
Yeah.
Dude,
is-
because here's the problem. You know, here's what we'll say. They won't tell you that the bathroom is clogged until 4 people have clogged it.
Yes,
Right.
Yeah,
man.
exactly.
Times, yeah.
Like
Yes.
until the third time, it's gonna be like, and by that point, like obviously we know it's over.
Yeah.
It's over.
Yeah. Hey, your bathroom's a little clogged. Oh, okay. And you like
Walk
walk
in
in
there.
there. It's like, dude, this
Swept
is a
away.
war zone in here. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
little clogged. Did you
And there
clog
was,
this?
dude, and it was so crazy. Some nights it literally was a war zone. Like there would be needles, there would be
Oh
blood
my
on the wall.
God.
Like this is very rarely. Like just it looked like someone had maybe bled in there a little bit. Someone would have left a syringe or something like that. That's on the more rare side because we didn't live on the awful side of St. Pete. We were like just before you get there where
Yeah.
it starts getting bad.
Yeah.
But like
Oh man.
there was some weird stuff, man. It
Yeah.
is not for the faint of heart.
No,
I'm not
man.
even joking.
That puts
like,
some hair on your
Yeah,
chest,
dude,
man.
yeah, like, I
Going in
could go
there.
back and
the
do it, but-
smells and
Oh yeah, this like what you have to deal with, the amount of different people you have to deal with, no less in Florida
Mhm.
on a given like you deal with the sweetest personalities to the craziest to the meanest, and it's like any given moment, like
Yeah.
any given minute, someone
Yeah.
could walk in and be ready to rob the place.
Yeah.
Like
definitely was a
holy, that was so.
looking
weird.
back was a good experience just to like be ready for anything
Mhm.
at any moment.
That's so crazy.
But yeah. No, I'm curious if there's any more gas station stories in there. But moving on, wrapping it up, where are we reading till next? Is it are we doing another 4? Is that what we're doing?
I think we're just doing
No,
it based
Should
off
we
of
be-
pages.
Yeah, it's
so
gonna be
Pages.
pages now. Right?
try and do like somewhere around like 80, so somewhere around like 160.
Yeah.
160 would
Something
be
around on the slightly underside because we went slightly.
chapter 10.
Where's that?
Finish chapter 10. Chapter 10 starts at 155.
Yeah.
155. Yeah, let's do that.
So
155. So
stop 411.
Wait. Read chapter 10 or read up to chapter 10.
Well, it's up to you.
What does chapter 10 end at? Where am I at?
Well,
Ends
chapter
at
10
172.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we probably want to read up to chapter 10.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, read up to chapter 10.
Okay.
You wanna
Sweet.
write that down?
All
Yeah,
right.
read up to 154 if you're doing it by page numbers.
There
Up
you
to
go.
154. So we'll see. I'll be curious to see. I mean, I like that. It seems like they do a little bit of like a summary of what you're gonna read off the title name. It's weird, like reading a book with title chapters and stuff again after not really doing that as much.
Well, that's the one thing that's thrown me and Miguel off is it says 61 life lessons,
Mhm.
and I was wondering if they are actually gonna point out what the life lessons are, or
I
not.
wonder-
Because
no. I think no. I
Unless-
think that's like no. The 61 is not. Oh, that's where you're confused.
Yeah,
you
that's
want me to
what we were
understand?
thinking.
Okay, yeah. So the 61 is based off of him scoring 61 points and
For
not
his-
getting 62 for the state title. So
Yeah,
did you read
yeah.
this?
Yeah.
So in this so
Okay.
the day after burying his grandfather, Paul coped the best way he knew how by playing basketball, making shot after shot. He approached the state high school scoring record, which was held by the legendary Michael Jordan. But his last attempt was an air ball purposely missed from the foul line before Paul exited the game. He accomplished exactly what he set out to do that day, honoring his grandfather, and he did it by scoring 61 points. 61
so it's like,
life lessons.
Yeah.
61 life lessons from
yeah.
Chris Paul.
I
To,
see, I
you see what I'm saying? Okay, cool. That should help a little bit then with
so wait,
clearing that up.
Chris Paul and Michael Jordan went to the same high school.
State. North
Yeah,
Carolina.
Same state. Yeah.
Oh.
So
same
high
state.
school, he was 1 point away from breaking the high school scoring record and decided not to.
Oh, in the state.
In the state,
Gotcha,
yes,
gotcha,
it was.
gotcha,
Yeah,
gotcha.
so that was really cool.
I feel like
but
he definitely could have broke that record.
he airballed
but-
the free throw on
yeah.
purpose, man. That's crazy. That's what's
man.
crazy to me. Like that shows you someone at a young age, just like if you could invest in a person,
Mm-hmm.
it's like dang, this guy got it figured out.
Didn't that
Yeah.
happen recently with something else? Someone else did that too. I swear.
Scoring.
It was some scoring thing where they purposely missed.
I don't know. Have to look that up.
I feel like I
I
know what you're
just think
talking
of
about,
Where
but
I
I
saw
can't
that on
remember.
like on X.
It was probably was. Sounds like that would be something.
Oh no, yeah. He's talking about the Dolphins Broncos. Remember that? The
mm.
Dolphins were about to score
yeah,
71
yeah.
point. They could have kicked
They
the
were
field
gonna-
goal to
yeah.
get 73
Yeah.
points, and they just didn't. They just
Yeah.
needed out
Yeah.
because he didn't
Uh,
need the points, obviously. But
I mean, yeah.
I thought
They,
it was
no, but it was
basketball,
no, but it literally that did happen. It had to be that because it's all I can think of. the Broncos were like getting destroyed by the Dolphins. It was like 70-20, and like with 3 seconds left, the Broncos had the ball on like 4th down, and I guess they just like needed or did something to not score, not to rub it in more, I guess. But I think they literally just came out and said like, we don't want to do that, not to necessarily the football gods, but don't need the karma of like going for the record, like try to kick the field goal, you miss it, and then your season just plummets. Like it just
like
sends
bad
you on a
juju.
weird, like a weird
Imagine.
type of bad juju. I don't know, man.
That would
You know how
suck.
athletes are.
That would
You-
suck
They're not crazy.
And it happens,
for
man.
the rest of the year.
But yeah, that all right. Well, there we go. Now we at least we did something. We
Yeah, we did.
explained the title today.
There you go.
So we
Hey,
got there.
I'm learning. That's one of the 61 lessons.
That I can get why that would be confusing, though. Obviously,
Yeah.
that makes a lot of sense. Luckily I read this thing,
Yeah.
so it crystallized it for me before I started the book. So I wasn't even thinking about that. If you were reading that looking
Yo,
for
I was like,
61
I
lines,
was like, man, I'm thinking, I'm like, all right, is it chapter titles? I'm like, is he
the
gonna
back
be
of
bold?
this book is gonna get
Yeah, bro.
loaded.
Yeah,
man.
right?
It's
Yeah.
gonna be it's gonna be
like-
61 pages of lessons.
Right. I was like, Papa's over here just dropping dimes every single page. I'm like, wow,
He's
that was a
hella-
great lesson.
Oh my gosh,
But
that's hilarious.
all right, moving on.
That wraps up the book club bros portion of this thing.
Yep, and moving on to the short snippets,
Short
baby.
snippets.
All right, want me to go first?
Let's do
Fun
it.
fact.
Fun fact.
Ho 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 ho.
I'm curious.
This one's
This has
gonna
turned
be-
into a fun segment.
This one's gonna be interesting.
All right.
I wanna hear Landon's response to this.
Oh, great.
All right, fun fact of the day: cauliflower dipped in barbecue sauce tastes almost the same as chicken nuggets, and it's infinitely healthier.
It's infinitely healthier. You got me there.
It is.
You gonna try it out?
Have you had it before?
Yeah, I mean, fried cauliflower dipped in. Yeah, I
'Cause
don't
he
think
did
it's
that to
not the
me.
same,
I
but
did not do that to you.
You had me try cauliflower.
Yeah, I did not do that to you. I asked, hey, do you want to try some buffalo cauliflower? Buffalo cauliflower.
Wait a
And
second.
you
Wait a
said,
second. Wait
"Yeah."
a second. Is that how you actually believe it happened? Because you got a twisted memory. Is that how you actually believe it happened? Are you fronting for the gram right now?
No. For the crap.
Yeah.
No, that's no for the. Are you? No,
Do you want to
I-
know how it happened?
No, I know how I tricked you on the.
Yeah, on
on the
both.
other
That's
one.
why literally I haven't trusted you for a while now. But it's okay. Dude, literally he brings me
What happened?
downstairs. He brings me downstairs. And the thing is, you'll remember exactly how this happened because I knew what you were doing kind of. He brings me down there. He's like, "Hey, you want to try some buffalo wings?" I was like, "Never offered that before." But yeah, sure. Like what? I was like, "Yeah, just try these. Just try these wings. All right, just try these. All right, and let me know what you think. Just try them and let me know what you think. Who do you? I like buffalo wings.
Yeah.
So obviously, but we're on the same page. I get what you're doing because we've
Right,
done
I didn't
this.
force you though.
No, you didn't force me to. You didn't force me to. But I'm like, all
Well,
right,
hey,
I'll give it a try. And I
all right.
even tried it.
Well,
And I said, he's like, what do you think? And I was like, it's something a little weird. So I took another bite, and then basically I was just like, all right, so like, what are these? And he's like, they're cauliflower. I was surprised they're cauliflower dipped in. Like, did you fry them?
no, they're not fried.
They
They're
weren't fried?
They're air fried.
They were air fried.
Air
Okay, so
fried
but it
buffalo
still had
cauliflower?
it still had
Smack.
the design. Yeah, the design of a wing. So I was like,
They're
yeah, what
good.
did you do to this? I was like, it's not bad. I was
Yeah.
like, you could tell.
100%. If I told you, hey, come downstairs, I want you to try a buffalo cauliflower wing, you said, nah, man, I'm good. Is
So
that-
100, I agree with you there.
yeah.
No, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, if you want to manipulate me into doing what you want me to do, I mean, that's
No, I mean, I
all.
want you to try new things. I want you to try new
appreciate
things.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you.
Oh
Trying to
my
get you on
God.
that healthier lifestyle. Don't you
Hey,
worry. Hey, my next book,
boy, we're
next book
far-
is gonna be a health book.
Dude, I'm gonna have to
I
go
like
to
that.
rehab if you want me to change, have a healthier lifestyle. It's way more than just wings.
I'm gonna have you 4 weeks. You're gonna read a book.
If you literally
I'm gonna
do
do a health book.
oh my
I'm gonna do a
gosh,
nutrition book.
I'm literally. That's gonna
That
be.
would be good, man.
Stop it.
I think it would
Stop
be good.
it.
Stop
honestly.
it. Hey, we're
Stop
trying to
it.
live for a long time
Yeah,
here.
exactly.
All right, but
longevity.
that's my fun fact.
That was
Uh,
that was the longest
That was
tangent
good.
we've gone on
All
to
right.
after a fun fact.
Who wants
like
to go
that.
next?
That's good.
I got you.
All right, here we go.
All right. So, this quote is from Estee Lauder. I never dreamed about success. I worked for it.
I like that. And
That's it.
flawless pronunciation of the name.
There we go.
That was
Pretty good.
My mom used to go to Dillard's a lot, and they used to always offer her Estee Lauder
what?
uh,
That's
stuff. So
It came with a story too.
There we go.
That's a great quote. Great quote today. All right, the question for the day, not too thought-provoking, but we did just start a sports book. So, who was your favorite athlete growing up? Just your favorite athlete
Oh, I like that.
growing up. Doesn't have to be any sport. Just who would you pinpoint and just say, love this athlete? Love to watch them. Love just whatever they were about. Even whenever you're just growing up. Not even right now. Favorite. We're talking about kids and how Chris is doing parenting and stuff like that. If you could think back to your childhood, who was like your athlete? You
First
got one?
person I think about is Peyton Manning.
Ooh.
I loved Peyton Manning when I was growing up. I mean, he's still a great guy for sure.
Manning.
But like, yeah, bro, I used to every time he would play, I'm like, all right, I got to see Peyton Manning.
Wow.
I got to see him. Yeah.
I like that.
Shout out Peyton Manning.
I like that. I'll go ahead and give you mine while Chase is digging for his. Mine was probably Albert Pujols.
Nice.
He was like
classic
he
guy.
was so like huge to my family. Like we had Albert Pujols posters everywhere. He was like the poster child for like Christianity and stuff like that for the MLB, and that's what me and my family are. So just being able to follow him, he was the greatest teammate. Always trying to, speaking of foundations, like we were talking about, he was always setting stuff up. He actually has a handicapped child that he has to look after and stuff like that needs special care. So I have like the utmost respect for any parent that that takes on, I don't even want to say burden, I would say challenge. It takes on that challenge to do that, because you're sacrificing so much of yourself in return for not a lot of people would. So Albert Pujols, amazing player, gave our family so many like great baseball moments on top, like for the World Series and stuff like that. All around great player.
Yeah, one of the greats.
One of the greats.
Mine, I say professional athlete that was actually made it to the MLB was one of the old Devil Rays pitchers. His name was Scott Kazmir.
Scott Kazmir.
Yeah.
Was he like a funky like pitcher?
Yeah.
He was like was he a funky thrower?
I don't know if he was like
I'm trying to think.
Submarine.
Because I know I remember the name just from playing sports.
Yeah.
MLB.
He played briefly and then but that's like I had like a jersey of him.
Nice.
Way back.
Just like Kazmir. Did your dad like talk to you about him and stuff, or you just took
I
up
think
to
it
him?
was just like started watching the Rays and then just like
and the
just grew
jersey.
attached. Yeah.
Once you get the jersey, it's kind of
the jersey's changed.
solidified.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
But yeah,
about
that
that?
was it.
All right, well that wraps up our short snippets.
There you go, and that's gonna wrap up the entire episode. Well, guys, thank you so much. If you are listening or watching to the very end, we appreciate you. And if you enjoyed the episode and you want to read along, make sure you pick up one of your copies of the 61 Life Lessons from Papa on and off the court by